Hello and welcome to Coffee with Carey. Thank you for stopping by today to see what's on the agenda. And last week I asked a question. I said, ask me anything. You've got a dating coach, a private dating coach where people pay me actual monies to answer their questions and help guide them through this dating process. And I don't know what your issues are. All 100 videos I think I've made in this playlist called Date Night, and then a couple extras in Dating Quick Tips. But I don't know if I got to the one thing that's on your mind. So I gave you the opportunity, and I'm going to get to one of those today. And what this person asked me has been asked a few times previously, and it's about people who don't live in a metropolitan area. And I will admit that most of my matchmaking clients, most of them are in major metropolitan areas, although I will randomly get somebody who's kind of out in the middle of nowhere, and we have to kind of do some workarounds. And these are some of the tools and the things we need to think about to make sure we find a match for this person. And if you're dating in a small town or a rural area and you have exhausted the possibilities in your area, what do, right? Well, these are some ideas. Stick around if that sounds interesting. So I'm thinking, first of all, off the top of my head, about a fella I have, a client I'm working with now, who lives in Sioux Falls, and he has his dating parameters, the women that I'm screening to match him with, and we're doing date coaching also, but the women that I'm talking to are from other states. 2-hour drive, Minneapolis is one of them, Omaha and Nebraska is another, and he decided that he really couldn't find anybody who was connecting with locally. If any of you gals are in Sioux Falls area, shoot me a message down in the comment section and let me know. But we've had to expand our horizons here a bit and actually search for people that are logistically a little bit more challenging. And some people are totally amenable. Now, what I wanted to point out is before I will match him with somebody, let's say I'm screening a woman from Minneapolis or St. Paul, which is, as I said, a few hours away, I will let them know ahead of time that the man that I'm trying to match them with lives out of state. And I need to make sure that that's all right with them, that they're amenable to the idea. You don't want to meet somebody and it's all tricky, like some big trick, and then you go, haha, I'm actually 2 hours away, and you wanted somebody who lives 3 blocks away. So I want to make sure everybody is on the same page and is open to the idea of dating somebody a little bit further away. And so opening up your horizons a bit and dating people outside your area is certainly an option. Speaking of opening up your parameters a bit, maybe not just the demographic of distance. Maybe you need to look at some of the actual parameters you've set for yourself if you're using the dating apps. Maybe not just distance and making it a wider area by changing how many miles out you're looking to meet somebody, but also maybe height, maybe age, maybe religion or politics, if that's something that you have some strong preferences about in the app that you're using. You've been able to check that off as a must-have. Maybe even opening up your parameters to include people of other races if you've had it limited to 1 or 2, and allowing some diversity in your dating. And all of these things, if you make these changes to the people you're willing to meet, maybe it'll just be an interesting evening meeting somebody, and maybe you'll be surprised that you'll truly find a connection to somebody that you didn't think was your type, or somebody that you thought was a little too short or a little too bald or a little too far. So changing your parameters on your dating apps is a great way to widen the net that you're setting out there hoping to meet somebody. And then again, with the distance thing, I know that most people assume that everybody's looking for the exact kind of relationship, the typical couple relationship where you meet somebody, you date, and eventually you move in together or get married and move in together. You share a home together and you're together every day after 5 o'clock and you're together every weekend. But you might be surprised to know that that's not everybody's end game or their goal once they find a partner. Private coaching clients are very often surprised when we examine what is the ideal relationship that you're looking for, and we bring up that there are other options. They're like, well, I think I want to get back out there, but I know I really don't want to live with anybody right away, but We find that some people think that getting together a couple times a month and staying over at each other's houses is perfectly acceptable, and that even long term, if they were married, they'd still want to have their own place to go for their own alone time. So everybody's different. So don't assume that everybody is looking for exactly what you're looking for, and make sure that that's something you discuss with people. And that is one of those things that you can ask early on, preferably before you actually drive anywhere to meet them. Maybe in a if you're having a virtual date, that's a great virtual date conversation. And also if you're talking on the phone to somebody, these are some of the things besides values that you might want to know ahead of time. Because as long as somebody's on the same page with long distance, it might work out great. And then I kind of want to point out that if you are doing a lot of virtual dating, and some people it's working out great, they're having virtual relationships at this point, 10, 11 months into a pandemic. I have a friend who lives in the Midwest, but she's dating somebody who lives in Spain. I think I may have mentioned her before. And I know that early on in that relationship that they would meet at the end of every day after work for a cocktail and to unwind and catch up on how was your day, and talk for an hour or so in the evening over a glass of wine or something. And while that's fabulous and they truly got to know each other over a couple months of doing that, I think we all know that eventually you have to meet IRL in real life, right? As long as you have some idea on what that looks like, how long you're willing to invest in a relationship without meeting that person, then I think it's a fine idea. But I think if you're just indefinitely having a long distance relationship, and don't forget, we got to be careful of like scams too. There could just be somebody lonely who's the opposite sex of who you think you're talking to and showing you fake pictures. You don't want to be catfished. People are weird out there, so you have to protect yourself first and foremost. But my point was, eventually you have to meet this person in real life, and I think you should have a conversation determining how long you're going to do the virtual thing before you actually make that leap, do that drive, meet halfway, and something like that, or somebody does a weekend and stays at a hotel nearby. You've got to know, you've got to be on the same page. The next thing to think about and contemplate, which makes things a little easier if you're not finding anybody locally, is to ask yourself, how flexible are you with work? You know, now that we've been in COVID for a while, a lot of people who used to go to an office are working at home. And a lot of people who are working at home, they've been told that that will be their new workplace from here forward because of COVID, that it's working for a lot of companies and they're going to continue to allow employees to work at home. So do you have the type of job where you can work anywhere? Do you have a job where there are a plentiful amount of jobs if you were to live somewhere else? Can you work from anywhere? Because maybe there's some place you would contemplate moving to, or that you were thinking you wanted to live. I have somebody who is always thought that she wanted to live in Arizona. So while she lives in California, I'm matching her and interviewing men who live in Scottsdale and Tempe and all these places in Arizona, because in the end, she feels like that's where she wants to end up. And it would be great to connect with somebody there, to visit for a while, and she'd have someplace to stay while she's house hunting perhaps. So if she could work anywhere, she could live anywhere, and she could meet somebody elsewhere. Which brings me to my final point. What is your priority? Is it the job? Is it being near family? Is it being near your friends? Or is the relationship the priority? For those of you who are not in my over 50 group who are looking to have a family, maybe kids are the priority for you at this point, and the job is definitely secondary to that. You know you want a family, and if you're somewhere you can't find that person to start a family with, maybe your best bet would be to move. Just to pick up and move. I think you have to know what's most important to you. If you own a business somewhere in a specific town or a city, that pretty much locks you in, and that makes things more difficult. But if you could pick up and find a job elsewhere, leaving your family behind perhaps, to find your partner, to have a family of your own, maybe the end goal is to move your family back, your new family back to where your family that you're with now is located, so that you can all be together. But maybe you have to leave home to find that guy or gal, man, woman, that you can marry and start a family with. and then know that the end game is to get back to where you started. These are some things to think about anyway, and I'm hoping that something there was something you hadn't thought of already. So if it was, please give the episode a thumbs up. If you want to meet up again sometime for some chatting and conversation about dating, I hope you will subscribe and then hit that ring bell. That way you're notified every time I upload a new episode, and we will be assured of meeting again. I appreciate you being here today, and until the next time, have a good one.